Hi, my name is Joanna Whitney. I am an intuitive artist, a student of natural law, and an energy healer. And right now, what I'm doing with these videos is I'm talking about natural law, breaking it down to ruling the inner monarchy, because as a result of some um, in-person work, I discovered that I feel like maybe people, in order to be in community, we have to learn how to treat each other. And in order to do that, we have to learn how to rule the inner monarchy. And so I'm just looking at certain things that I'm noticing in my interactions with people that I think might be relevant and interesting to look at and think about in things where we typically violate natural law with each other and cause are part of the problem. We're not part of the solution, you know. And it's not like society teaches us how to live by natural law. In fact, right now, the focus seems to be to create as much chaos as possible so that we beg the globalists to bring in the new world order. So simple little things like I think the last one I did was minding your own business. And along those same lines, the one I'm going to talk about today is similar to minding your own business, but it's got its own uh flavor. And that is giving unsolicited advice. And I wrote a document about it that I'm going to be reading from and referring to about this. So I did a video on this topic about a week ago using this document, but my tone of voice was so sarcastic that I just couldn't publish it because I felt like it was going to be detrimental. It wasn't really. I think I had just had somebody like pile on a bunch of unsolicited advice, and it was so annoying that I was just reacting to it when I was doing the video. So I gave myself a week to process it, and now I'm going to be talking about unsolicited advice, and you guys can take it or leave it, obviously. Me personally, I had to stop giving unsolicited advice because I live by spiritual principles, and at one point I had to apologize to all the people I gave unsolicited advice to, and that was so mortifying that I quit giving it. But I have noticed like that so many people I know just give unsolicited advice that I was thinking about it in terms of natural law, and it is a form of theft. So I'm going to just refer to the document. What is natural law? Invisible laws which govern the consequences of behavior of beings who have the capacity to know right from wrong. And everybody, may or may not know this, but I studied the work of Mark Passio in 2015. And that's how I learned about natural law, which I had actually been living by anyway. I didn't realize that I had been utilizing natural law under a different name for like the last 30 years. So that is the source of my information. All of his podcasts from 1 through 196. I don't watch any of the new stuff because he's so angry because of his wife being murdered. But all of the podcasts and quite a few of the topic DVDs up to Cosmic Abandonment address natural law and the violations of natural law that we see in the world now. So the violations of natural law all boil down to theft. Let's see if I can do them. There's 5 of them. Okay. Coercion, which is intellectual theft. Trespass, which is a form of stealing property intellectually, or, coming on your property. Stealing property, that's the third one. Murder, theft of life, and rape, theft of sexual space. So those are the 5 major thefts. And then how to look at it through a lens, so you can see like how little stuff we're doing is in violation of natural law and is theft. So and then the opposite of all those things is do unto others as you would have others do unto you. So the golden rule. So there's theft on the one side and the golden rule on the other side. So giving unsolicited advice. Okay, I'm just going to read this and then comment. Have you noticed how giving unsolicited advice has become the new conversation? Have you noticed yourself talking to a friend about something? You're simply confiding in them what's going on with you, and the next thing you know, they are telling you what to do, or they are telling you how to talk differently, or how to think differently, or they are telling you what product to buy. Have you noticed how you do the same thing to other people? Have you noticed yourself waiting for an opening in what feels like their monologue, where you can jump in and tell them what they should do about this, that, and the other? This is the new way we behave in what we now call conversation, and it is a violation of natural law. The definition of conversation is an oral exchange of ideas. The definition of the word exchange is reciprocal giving and receiving, trade. Reciprocity means the quality or state of being reciprocal, mutual dependence, action, or influence. No wonder we can't barter anymore. We can't even trade words with each other without trying to dominate one another. So this is conditioning, dominating one another and telling each other what to do. Dictatorship. This is coming from programming through school, work, parenting, and every form of media that's going on out there right now. First of all, do you remember what it feels like to simply listen? Do you recall what it feels like to be listened to? I mean, it's been a long time, honestly. Although my partner and I try not to give each other unsolicited advice. I had to actually make an apology to him for telling him how to eat when we first got together. And he, I remember he faked it and pretended to care what I had to say. And then finally one day he said something about how I preach to him. And I was so horrified that I was preaching that I had to take a look at it. And I realized that I was in total fear, and I thought I was right. And I thought that I knew how he should eat, and that somehow was my business, which goes back to the other podcast thing I did last time, where I was minding his business. And this is a form of theft. I would say it's a form of intellectual property theft, because by my thinking I know better than him, I think I'm a human authority over him, and therefore I can tell him what to do, and I have to. I felt like it was life and death. It felt like life and death to me that I had to tell him how to eat and try to force him to eat the way that I thought he should eat. And the bottom line was that it was because I wanted him to live as long as I live. Like, I have some choice about that, you know? In reality, who knows how long we are each here? It's none of my business, and I need to put my faith in what I call God, personally, so that I don't have to try to control other people, because our fates are all different. What's going to happen to each one of us, who knows? It's just one day, this day that we're in, and it's none of my business what people do. I have to really look at why this is so important to me, and it feels like life and death that I need to tell somebody who's lived that, I'm 61, he's going to be 60. He's managed to live that long without me and my advice up to this point, and I like him the way he is, so he's been doing fine up till now, so he doesn't need my advice. I mean, I had to really look at that like very closely. So first of all, like I said, like, do you remember what it feels like to simply listen to other people? And that's what we try to do for each other today, is just to simply listen to one another. And then how does it feel to be listened to? I mean, it feels so good to be listened to, you know? Um, in my heart chakra opens when I feel like I was listened to. And then I can do that for someone else by simply listening to them and trusting that their connection to their higher power is going to lead them down the right road. All right. Definition of listen: to pay attention to sound. Okay, pay. I'm going to go into this in a minute, but to hear something with thoughtful attention, give consideration, to pay attention. Let's think about that for a moment. Attention is currency. It's current, like electrical current, as well as being present, current. My attention is a frequency. When I hold my attention upon something, I am paying a portion of my frequency to it. This goes back to the double slit experiment, where it was proven that we, the viewer, affect the thing we're viewing. This has to do with the power that is contained in our attention. I mean, they have done so much work to try to distract us from this. It's amazing. But if you knew, like, we know when people like light workers or whoever say that humans are so powerful, we are so powerful, but the globalists really don't want us to know how powerful we are, so they really try to distract us from this power that we have. And a large part of the power is in our eyes. We are viewing our eyes spiritually. The eyes are the window to the soul, but we don't really even understand what that means. But it does mean that I can project my soul power out through my eyes, and therefore it affects what I am viewing. So if I am paying attention to someone who is talking to me, I am giving them spiritual power by doing that. And same thing is true if someone's listening to me. We're looking at each other. We're giving each other spiritual power. I mean, I don't even know the magnitude of all that. I'm just guessing right now. Let's see. Paint. That we are not distracted by something else. In this case, that would be that we are going to get what we are going to get as a result of giving our attention, because if we are thinking about what we're going to get, then we are not giving our full attention. So in other words, if I'm thinking about what I'm going to tell the person I'm supposedly listening to about what they should do about their quote unquote problem, then I'm not giving them full attention, because I'm looking at where I'm going to get something back from the conversation. This is the globalist agenda at work. They have divided our attention so much by introducing the mobile device, which constantly takes precedence over every activity, that we are no longer single-minded. Single-mindedness is a virtue. To be single-minded means that you have the ability to combine the left and right halves of your brain into a single force that is aligned under natural law, God, for God's demonstration through you. And that also means that you can have more than one thought in your head at one time. You can have several thoughts in your head at one time without having to commit to any of them. The satanic agenda, however, is to convince you that you have to take care of and fend for yourself. Therefore, you must constantly be thinking about how you're going to get yours while pretending to pay attention to others. Meanwhile, no one benefits from this, and that's what makes it satanic, because it promises more than it delivers. Unsolicited advice is a byproduct of double-mindedness and the belief that you have to take care of yourself and constantly having to be on guard to get what you need from other people. Unfortunately, the power that you're seeking from other people is not from other people. It is a supernatural power. It is power only found in your direct connection with Source, and from tapping into that unlimited power, natural law, God, then you actually have something to give, but it is not actually yours to give. It is being given through you, and therefore you don't have to ration it out or squander it or try to keep it all for yourself, because it is unlimited. How is giving unsolicited advice a violation of natural law? Well, it presumes that you or they are an authority over you or they. And under natural law, we know there is no human authority. Each person has their own inner compass. Each person has their own conscience and their own intuition. Each person has their own path. Each person has their own readiness on their path and their own knowing. To presume that I know what other people should do is extreme self-centeredness. The word narcissism is thrown around quite a bit these days. And what is that actually about? Narcissus was a Greek hunter who fell in love with his own reflection in the lake until he fell in and drowned. What is this if not narcissism? To only see in others a reflection of yourself, such that you feel that you must tell other people how to act, what to buy, what to do, how to talk, even when death is the end game, because you will just fall in the lake of self-centeredness and drown in your own selfishness. And yet this is how it has become out there in the My Freedom movement. In the My Freedom movement, which is really Satanism, because I'm the authority and you must listen to me because I know what's best for you. That's Satanism. Why? Why is it Satanism? Okay, God. I'm playing God. If I act like I know what's best for you, I'm playing God in your life. I'm another person equal to you. I have no idea what you should do with your life. But to pretend that I do is me playing God, and that's satanic. This may seem trivial, but it is not. All human relationships boil down to what it is like if it's just me and another person on earth. This is something that Mark Passio showed how to do. I think it was in the natural law talk at Yale University. He talks about this. How am I relating to other? Am I the authority over my brothers and sisters, or am I the obsequious seeker? Either way is not an equal balance that allows for the spirit to flow between us. How can one be considered a true friend if they do not know how to listen? Or the opposite, how can I be considered a true friend if I don't know how to listen? Or are you the person who does not ask how the other person is doing, but simply answers all the questions and talks only about yourself? This is another form of self-centeredness as well. To have no interest in other people's point of view if it is different from yours, or to only be looking for your way in order to change their point of view over to your way of thinking. They are not a true friend, or you are not a true friend, and they will not be there for you, and you will not be there for them. And in fact, they are just using you as their reflection, and when you are gone, they will just use the next person who shows up. The same with you. If you're only offering advice that is unsolicited, then you are just using the other person as your reflection. This is similar to that definition of hell, where the people are trying to feed themselves with the long-handled spoons instead of feeding each other. It is all based on Do as thou wilt and don't get caught. Ask forgiveness rather than ask permission. Theft. Unsolicited means they did not ask you for advice. They simply needed someone to listen and you gave them advice, or the other way around, which is theft. Because, I'm sitting here and I appear to be a person who cares, but actually I'm not. I only care about myself. So therefore I'm stealing from you. My image projects the look of someone who cares, but I don't really care. I only want to give you my advice. How does it feel to need someone to listen and to only receive a to-do list? Some people could get really suicidal over that. If you are a person with no relationship to self, it feels like confusion. Self, when I say self, it's capitalized, the big S self. If I have no connection to my higher self and someone just hands me a to-do list, it creates confusion in me. You don't know what to do because you could get different advice from every person you talk to, and then how would you know which advice to follow? If you have a relationship to self, the higher self, it simply feels lonely. Giving unsolicited advice shuts other people out. It is a violation of natural law because it presumes the advice giver is an authority, a dictator, someone who dictates to another. What is the result of giving unsolicited advice? It may feel good in the moment. That's the point, is it not? It feels good because it validates you. And you obviously have no relationship to self, the higher self, either. Otherwise, you would not need to do it. You feel validated by telling someone else how they should live. It makes you feel in control, but there is a back end to it also, just like with gossip. And you feel lost and out of control about 2 hours later. That robs you of your sense of self, higher self, because you interfered with another person's free will, which is a violation of natural law. This has been perpetrated upon us by the globalist agenda in much the same way as tell, lie, vision programming through reality TV. Reality TV and social media is all about telling other people what to do and browbeating them for doing things the way they do them. Listening means you use your 2 ears and keep your 1 mouth shut. A person may ask for advice after a listening session, at which point the listener could say, "Do you really want my advice?" And then wait. Yeah, see, that's where I'm getting sarcastic because I just can't imagine this happening. I've had to do this myself. It's hard. See if the person says yes and then give space for you to give it. Even if they do give space, it might be much more helpful and aligned with natural law if you would say, "What do you think you should do?" Or, "When I was in a similar situation, this is what I did." Encouraging others to find their own answers is in alignment with freedom and sovereignty. Keep track of these interactions and watch how they make you feel. Although it may be more anticlimactic in the moment, don't you notice that you feel more balanced throughout? You don't get thrown off balance by violating another person's free will by trying to convince them to live their life according to you. And you also learn to validate yourself by simply living your own life and letting others live theirs. This also goes back to minding your own business, which certainly doesn't sell clicks on Facebook, but it cuts off that adrenaline cortisol reaction that each click and like creates a need for. Cortisol gets stored in the body and becomes belly fat. This manner of communicating is on the road to slavery because it creates an authority over imbalance between people with no real connection. People only truly connect with each other when they share their experience with one another without an ultimatum. Experience is not something that can be argued. You had your experience, and that is what you have to offer if they ask for it. The person who receives the advice feels more alone than ever after the conversation. I know this from experience. I have quite a few people in my life right now who tell me what to do on a regular basis. I am much more interested in their experience from which I can draw my own conclusion. For some reason, my individuality must threaten their life pillar. They must be so insecure in their life decisions that they have to have people around them who listen to their advice and follow it in order for them to feel okay. I personally have God, and I mean, it's a non-denominational, you know, when I say God, I mean nature, the spirit of nature. The spirit of nature directs me through my intuition and tells me what to do. Some of the people who tell me what to do have helped me, but my desire to hang out with them and talk with them is thin. Others, I just yes them and recognize that we won't be friends for long. I also don't trust them much because bottom line, they're really trying to sell me something or get something from me. In addition, let's look at the golden rule. Do unto others as you would have others do unto you. Do you really want other people giving you unsolicited advice? Or do you really want to be the or do you really want the homogeny of people who only agree with you and tell you what you want to hear? Maybe you do, in which case perhaps you need to build your self-esteem through esteemable action in order to have true freedom, in which everyone gets to have their own experience with life, and the only authority is natural law, God, the spirit. Each one of us must gain inner strength from the esteemable action that we take so we can practice live and let live, which is in alignment with natural law and creates freedom for all, not just freedom for me. So, yeah, I think this is pretty important just because I have to keep a close eye on my behavior so that I remain sovereign in my communication. And also, that thing that I mentioned, which is that I am only, if it was just me and one other person on earth, how I treat other people, it determines my destiny and whether I'm going to remain sovereign or become a slave.